The idea of families chosen by divine right to rule over large populations has been, and in some countries still is, the justification for monarchical regimes. This is why being a dictator today is so challenging, as a dictator lacks divine justification for governance and requires extreme violence and oppression, as practiced by Joseph Vissarionovich Djugashvili, better known as Joseph Stalin. Born with divinely ordained power and surrounded by privilege, it's no surprise that royal families have developed eccentric behaviors, inexplicable customs, and sometimes decisions that were indifferent to the people they governed. In this story, we will explore the history of 15 royal figures, more precisely, 14 royals and one former Latin American president remembered for their strange attitudes and how these behaviors impacted their roles, reputations, and historical legacies. Before diving in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest content. Number 1. Don Carlos, the cursed Prince, eldest son and heir of King Philip II of Spain. Don Carlos, Prince of Asturias, displayed strange behaviors from childhood. Historical records suggest he suffered from severe mental issues, likely caused by inbreeding in his family. Dubbed the Cursed Prince for his cruel tendencies, he had unpredictable fits of rage, a morbid fascination with others' pain, and an increasingly unhinged mind. It's said he blinded horses for amusement, threw live hares into fires to watch them writhe, and at age 11 ordered a young court lady to be brutally whipped. His father, desperate, paid the victim's father to avoid a scandal. At 18, a fall downstairs while chasing a courtesan worsened his condition. Doctors drilled a hole in his skull to save him, but it left profound aftereffects. From then on, Carlos lived in a state of delusions, hallucinations, and violent schemes. He attempted to kill the Duke of Alba, threatened Don Juan of Austria with a dagger, and, obsessed with power, even plotted to assassinate his own father, King Philip II. Cornered and fearing the worst, Philip had him imprisoned. Don Carlos descended into self-destruction, sleeping on ice, compulsively drinking icy water, and refusing food. He died alone, sick, and disturbed on July 28, 1568, at just 23 years old. Number 2. The Delusions of Empress Carlota of Mexico. Born on June 7, 1840, in Brussels, Carlota was the Empress Consort of Mexico from 1864 to 1867. Her husband, Emperor Maximilian I of Austria, accepted the Mexican crown after the French intervention in Mexico initiated by Napoleon III. During her brief reign, Carlota temporarily led the empire's regency while Maximilian traveled within the country. She abolished corporal punishment, limited working hours, and promoted industries like railways, telegraphs, and steam transport. However, she underwent a dramatic transformation, descending from an influential political figure into a woman trapped in the depths of madness. After the fall of the Second Mexican Empire and her husband's execution by order of Mexican President Benito Juárez, Carlota was confined in Belgium, where she wrote over 200 letters revealing her progressive loss of reality. These letters depict a woman who, amid her delirium, expressed religious visions, military strategies, and erotic fantasies, even describing acts of self-flagellation and behaviors that defied the norms of her time. Addressing French officials and family members without ever receiving replies, her isolation deepened her mental deterioration. Educated in an environment of virtue and submission, Carlota took her role in her husband's imperial venture seriously, but betrayal by allies and loneliness led to her emotional collapse. Her correspondence, beyond its historical value, offers a poignant testimony of a woman spiraling into despair and delusion. Carlota lived in isolation for decades until her death from pneumonia on January 19, 1927, at age 86. Number 3. Queen Victoria's issue with narcotics. Perhaps one of the most famous British monarchs, Queen Victoria held the crown of the United Kingdom for over 6 decades, from 1837 to 1901. Her era was marked by political reforms, industrial and scientific changes, the expansion of the British Empire, and an obsession with societal propriety. However, despite being a symbol of strict morality, Queen Victoria had a life marked by habitual use of narcotics. From her youth, she consumed laudanum, a mixture of opium and alcohol, as a painkiller, a common practice at the time. She also used sweets laced with other substances to lift her mood, and relied on herbs to alleviate menstrual pain, especially during her numerous pregnancies. She was among the first women to use chloroform during childbirth, describing its effects as delightful beyond measure. While not considered addiction in her time, these practices reflect a significant dependence on substances to manage physical and emotional pain. After the death of her husband, Prince Albert, in 1861, Queen Victoria frequently retreated to Balmoral Castle, where she developed a close relationship with her Scottish servant, John Brown. The exact nature of their bond has been speculated upon, fueled by the destruction of her personal diaries by her youngest daughter, Beatrice, after Victoria's death. Rumors suggest an intimate relationship, possibly even a secret marriage, though no conclusive evidence exists. What is certain is that Brown held a special place in the Queen's life, and she entered deep mourning after his death. Victoria died on January 22, 1901, at age 81. Number 4. The Strange Diet of Empress Sisik. Known as Sissi, Elizabeth of Bavaria was the Empress Consort of Austria, Queen Consort of Hungary, Bohemia, Croatia, Slavonia, Dalmatia, Galicia, Lodomeria, and Illyria. Also called the Young Empress, Sissi was the wife of Franz Joseph I of Austria, with whom she had 4 children over more than 40 years of marriage. A tragic and obsessive figure, Sissi maintained a slender figure through rigorous and extreme dietary discipline. Unlike the typical image of opulent royalty bordering on obesity, Sissi stood 1.73 meters tall and weighed just 47 kilograms. Each morning, her maid measured her waist, ankles, and wrists to ensure she hadn't gained an inch. Her silhouette was described as almost inhumanly slender by the Prince of Hesse. To maintain this figure, she lived primarily on milk from cows and a goat that traveled with her across Europe, occasionally supplemented by powdered meat, broth, or an orange slice. Sissi's obsession with her body extended beyond diet. She installed gymnastic rings and balance bars in her palaces for daily exercise. Later, she added ice baths and long mountain walks to her routine. Court physicians noted alarming signs: acetone-scented breath, indicating severe starvation, and edema from nutrient deficiency, known as hunger swelling. Despite evident weakness and exhaustion, Sissi never relented, cultivating thinness as her sole vanity. While discontent and inequality grew in the empire, the empress focused on treatments and rituals to preserve her fading beauty. As the Austro-Hungarian Empire faltered, Sissi traveled to European spas with her intimate court, seeking youth in steam and diet. Her tragic end came in 1898 when anarchist Luigi Lucchini stabbed her in Geneva, Switzerland. Ironically, he justified the crime by saying only those who work deserve to eat, unaware that his victim barely ate, enslaved not by privilege, but by an impossible image. Number 5. Why Sissi banned photographs after age 30. The empress was so obsessed with her image that she not only strictly controlled her food, but also how others perceived her. From age 30, she made a radical decision. She banned photographs of herself, even refusing medical X-rays. Sissi feared time would tarnish her aesthetic ideal. In the 1880s, she expressed her aversion to public scrutiny in a poem titled "To the Curious," revealing her discomfort with prying eyes and her desire to hide like a snail in its shell. This obsession with controlling her visual representation contrasted with her passion for collecting portraits of other women. Sissi amassed albums of photographs of beautiful women, requesting images from photographers and ambassadors across European cities. These lavishly adorned albums reflected her interest in aesthetics and her desire to surround herself with images embodying her ideal of beauty. By avoiding photographs while curating these collections, Sissi crafted a visual narrative that perpetuated her youth and elegance, distancing herself from the reality of aging and reinforcing the myth of her eternal beauty. Number 6. The 22 Lovers of Catherine the Great. Catherine II of Russia, better known as Catherine the Great, was a fascinating historical figure surrounded by legends and rumors. Born on July 9, 1762, she was Empress of Russia for 34 years after overthrowing her husband, Peter III. During her reign, Russia experienced a cultural and scientific renaissance. Much of the myth surrounding Catherine focuses on her love life. It's said she had approximately 22 lovers during her reign, some of whom gained political benefits. Her relationships, mostly with younger men, fueled rumors about her intimate behavior, including accusations of nymphomania and the existence of an erotic cabinet in her palace. One of her most prominent lovers was Gregory Potemkin, a Russian military leader and statesman. Their relationship was deep and lasting, and they maintained close political collaboration even after their romance ended. It's rumored that Potemkin selected Catherine's subsequent lovers, ensuring their suitability. Another notable lover was Alexander Dmitry Mamonov, who, after falling for a lady-in-waiting, was banished from court, though he received a generous dowry in lands. Number 7. Francisco Ignacio Madero's guidance by Ghosttown. Not royalty. Francisco Ignacio Madero, a Mexican president, held beliefs that justify his inclusion here. Born on October 30, 1873 in Coahuila, Mexico, Madero earned the nickname Apostle of Democracy. A businessman, politician, and writer, he led the Mexican Revolution and served as president from 1911 to 1913. Madero was a fervent practitioner of Spiritism, a doctrine that profoundly influenced his personal and political life. During a stay in France from 1891 to 1892, he was introduced to Spiritism, influenced by Allan Kardec and his father, also a Spiritist. Upon returning to Mexico, he founded the Circle of Psychic Studies in San Pedro, Coahuila. Between 1901 and 1908, Madero practiced as a medium, claiming to communicate with spirits, including his brother Rael, who died at age 3, and historical figures like Benito Juarez. These spiritual messages, containing moral and political advice, motivated him to oppose dictator Porfirio Díaz's regime and promote democracy in Mexico. Spiritism's influence extended to his presidency, though he remained discreet about his beliefs. He promoted moral and social values inspired by these doctrines, implemented educational reforms, established rural and industrial schools, and distributed Spiritist texts in government institutions. His adherence to Spiritism drew criticism and ridicule from the press and Catholic Church, questioning his ability to govern. Caricatures depicted him consulting Ouija boards and holding seances, contributing to perceptions of instability in his government and his eventual overthrow in 1913. Number 8. Why Charlotte of Prussia's hands were teed. Born on July 24, 1860, in the Kingdom of Prussia, Princess Charlotte became the Duchess Consort of Saxe-Meiningen. From an early age, she showed signs of anxiety and nervousness, manifested in habits like nail-biting and tugging at her clothes. Her parents tried to correct these behaviors by forcing her to wear gloves or even tying her hands, but with little success. The relationship between Charlotte and her mother, Princess Victoria, was tense, marked by unmet expectations and constant disapproval. These familial tensions grew over time, especially as Charlotte became an influential figure in the Berlin court, known for her gossip and sharp tongue. As an adult, Charlotte defied norms by smoking and drinking in public, scandalizing her mother and grandmother, Queen Victoria. She hosted lavish parties and maintained a constant presence in Berlin's high society. Her reputation as a gossip was well known. She often gained others' trust only to reveal their secrets. Her relationship with her only daughter, Feodora, was distant and contentious, marked by constant criticism and mutual distrust. Despite her status and privileges, Charlotte faced lifelong health issues, including chronic pain and kidney problems, leading to opium dependence for relief. After the fall of the German monarchy at the end of World War I, her husband was deposed as Duke. Charlotte died in 1919 in Baden-Baden, possibly from a genetic condition like porphyria, which also affected other British royals. She was 59. Number 9. Charlotte's indecent parties and blackmailers. Notorious intrigues placed her at the center of a scandal in the court of Emperor Wilhelm II when an affair erupted involving multiple intimate relationships, bloody duels, and blackmail. According to research based on Prussian secret police archive, a select group of aristocrats and court officials participated in private parties organized in 1891 at a hunting lodge outside Berlin. Allegedly convened by Princess Charlotte, the emperor's older sister. These gatherings included unrestrained intimate relations, alcohol consumption, and dances with prominent government figures, including a foreign affairs secretary. The scandal broke the day after one such party when attendees began receiving anonymous letters detailing their activities and threatening to expose their identities, accompanied by explicit illustrations. These letters triggered a series of duels among the implicated, one resulting in a participant's death. Though the letter's author was never confirmed, some historians suspect Charlotte herself may have orchestrated the threats to discredit court rivals. This episode tarnished the Prussian nobility's reputation and strained Charlotte's relationship with her brother, the emperor, leading to her social exile and isolation in her final years. Number 10. The scandals of Prince George. Prince George, Duke of Kent, was a controversial figure within the British royal family. Born in England in 1902, he was known for his charm and attractiveness, but his life was marked by scandals that challenged royal norms. He was attributed multiple romantic relationships with both men and women, including figures like singer Jessie Matthews and playwright Noel Coward. Rumors also suggest he had an illegitimate child with socialite Kiki Preston, known as the girl with the silver syringe for her drug addiction. His relationship with Preston not only was romantic, but also introduced him to narcotic use, prompting his brother, Prince Edward, to intervene to separate him from her and his addictions. George's life was also shrouded in rumors of covert arrests and blackmail related to his romantic preferences, scandalous in that era. It said he was once arrested after being discovered with another man, but was released upon revealing his identity. He was also reportedly blackmailed by a worker possessing compromising letters. These incidents led the royal family to conceal many of his personal documents, likely to protect his reputation. George's death in a 1942 plane crash at age 39 added mystery to his scandalous life. Though officially attributed to pilot error, theories suggest George, also a pilot, might have been flying under the influence of alcohol. Some even speculate his death was orchestrated by the British government due to alleged Nazi sympathies, though these claims remain unconfirmed. Number 11. Juan Gast de' Medici and his lascivious partyist last Grand Duke of Tuscany. From the Medici dynasty, Juan Gast was born in Florence in 1671. His life was marked by scandal and decadence. During his reign, he surrounded himself with a group known as the Responti, young men who participated in lascivious parties and entertainment-defying social norms, including multiple relationships among men. These gatherings, often involving humiliating acts, reflected Juan Gast's disdain for the aristocracy and his hedonistic lifestyle. He loathed work and lacked ambition, delegating his monarchical duties and living confined to his apartments. He ate lunch in bed, dined at midnight, reeked of wine and tobacco, and even relieved himself in his bed. His last public appearance in 1729 reflected his state. Visibly drunk and disheveled, he vomited into a napkin during a banquet, leaving a lasting impression of decadence in the Florentine court. Despite his scandalous behavior, Juan Gast implemented progressive reforms, like abolishing anti-Semitic laws and reducing taxes for the poor. However, his disinterest in politics and tumultuous personal life contributed to the Medici's declining influence. After his death in 1737 without heirs, the dynasty ended, closing a significant chapter in Florence's history. Number 12. Queen Mary of Teck's thieving for pleasure. Born in London in 1867, Mary of Teck was Queen Consort of the United Kingdom and Empress Consort of India from 1910 to 1936. Wife of King Emperor George V, and grandmother of Elizabeth II. Known for her regal bearing and passion for collecting, she amassed one of the monarchy's most impressive collections, including jades, Fabergé elephants, and gold and silver tea sets. Her fervor for acquiring and restoring pieces to enrich the Windsor aura was so intense, it became her sole passion. However, her zeal for acquisition sparked rumors of alleged kleptomania, a thrill-seeking compulsion to steal. It was said that during visits to British aristocratic homes, Mary expressed such admiration for objects that hosts felt obliged to gift them to her. A notable case involved acquiring Russian imperial jewels, acting as an intermediary in the sale of Empress Dowager Maria Feodorovna's gems, keeping the most valuable pieces and paying a pittance to the heirs. While some historians argue her behavior stemmed from collecting passion rather than a compulsive disorder, her reputation as a kleptomaniac queen endures. Mary outlived 3 of her sons, serving as Queen Consort, Queen Mother, and Queen Grandmother, remaining alive during the early years of her granddaughter Elizabeth I's reign, mother of the current King Charles. Mary died in 1953 while sleeping, suffering from lung cancer, at age 85. Number 13. The Madness of George III of the United Kingdom. Born on June 4, 1738. George III was King of Great Britain and Ireland from 1760 to 1820, and Duke and Prince of Hanover in the Holy Roman Empire. His reign was marked by military conflicts, including the 7 Years' War, where Britain defeated France, and the independence of the 13 British colonies in America, which became the United States. Toward the end of his life, George III suffered severe mental issues. His first significant episode in 1788 involved an acute crisis with delusions, logorrhea, and erratic behavior, speaking incessantly for hours and writing excessively long sentences. These symptoms triggered a political crisis known as the Regency Crisis, debating whether his son, the future George IV, should assume power as regent. Though the king temporarily recovered, his mental health continued to deteriorate. For years, it was believed he suffered from porphyria, a hereditary metabolic disorder affecting the nervous system. Recent research questions this, suggesting bipolar disorder based on linguistic analysis of his writings and other records. A 2005 hair analysis revealed high arsenic levels, possibly from contemporary medicines, which may have exacerbated his symptoms. In 1810, after his youngest daughter, Princess Amelia, died, George III suffered a severe relapse, leading to his permanent withdrawal from public life. He lived in seclusion at Windsor Castle while his son governed as Prince Regent. In his final years, the king suffered blindness, deafness, and dementia, unaware of significant events like his proclamation as King of Hanover or his wife's death in 1818. He died in 1820 at age 82. Number 14. The Madness of Ludwig II of Bavaria, ascending the Bavarian throne at 18. Ludwig II reigned from 1864 to 1886. Born in 1845, he is also known as the Mad King for his strange behaviors. His reign was marked by increasing detachment from political affairs and immersion in art and fantasy. A fervent admirer of composer Richard Wagner, whom he generously supported, Ludwig dedicated much of his personal fortune to building castles like Neuschwanstein, Linderhof, and Herrenchiemsee, inspired by medieval legends and fairy tales. Though funded by his own resources, these extravagances sparked criticism and concerns about his mental health. As he withdrew from public life, Ludwig adopted increasingly eccentric behaviors, reportedly dining with statues of past kings and avoiding human contact in his residences. His obsession with purity and spirituality led him to identify with mythical figures like Parsifal, the Grail King, reflecting an internal struggle between his Catholic faith and romantic ideals. These behaviors fueled suspicions about his mental stability, culminating in his declaration of incapacity to govern in June 1886. He was interned at Berg Castle under medical supervision. Shortly after, he was found dead with his psychiatrist in Lake Starnberg. The circumstances of his death raised doubts, especially since Ludwig was a strong swimmer, and no one explains how he died in the lake. However, the royal family prevented exhumations that could have clarified the mystery. Number 15. Marie Antoinette's eccentric hairstyles. The Madame de Forsyth teenage Queen Marie Antoinette is undoubtedly one of the most famous royal figures, perhaps for her youthful immaturity or immense privileges. The Austrian-turned-French queen is remembered for her luxuries, eccentricities, and the rejection she faced from the populace. Born in Vienna in 1755, she arrived at the French court after marrying the future King Louis XVI, France's last monarch. One of her notable passions was creating the Petit Hameau, an artificial village in Versailles Gardens, where she and her courtiers dressed as peasants to enact an idealized rural life, while the French people suffered hunger and poverty. Beyond her bucolic escapades, Marie Antoinette was famous for her elaborate hairstyles and lavish attire, known as puce. Her hairstyles could reach a meter high, adorned with feathers, flowers, and jewels, requiring hours of preparation and a dedicated team. This ostentation sharply contrasted with the country's economic plight, earning her the nickname Madame de Forsyth. She was also the subject of numerous scandals, like the infamous diamond necklace affair, where she was falsely accused of fraudulently acquiring an exorbitant necklace. Though uninvolved, the scandal irreparably damaged her reputation, fueling public discontent that culminated in the French Revolution. After the revolution's outbreak, Marie Antoinette was imprisoned, tried, and executed by guillotine on October 16, 1793, at age 38. Economic, political, and social inequalities undoubtedly create a chasm between the elite and the masses. It's no surprise that so many nobles on this list were deposed or rejected, as their eccentric behaviors were not welcomed in their societies. However, it's curious to consider how many of these figures today might not be deemed eccentric, but rather mentally ill patients, people freely living their private lives, or carriers of genetic disorders. We hope this story has been insightful. If you have anything to add, please share it with us in the comments. Like this content and share the link with your family and friends so they can learn about the 15 strangest behaviors in royal families. If you're new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe and follow us on this YouTube channel. Remember, people unaware of their history is doomed to repeat it.